Welcome back to Waking the People. Chad, Josh, he can introduce himself in a minute, but for us, we've been out of this. It's been over 4 years now since our last video, and we've had some interesting experiences. We got a lot of different directions, or we've at least gotten out of some of the limelight with it. So yeah, so we're back. We're back with a different, similar message, but
Similar, yes.
yeah, but different. But I think that you guys will appreciate this shift. So with that, it's been a couple of years. Sorry, we missed you guys, and I'm sure you missed us. So Josh, what's it been like for you for the last 4 years? And we'll get to what it's been like, and then we're going to get to what we're doing now and how it's different.
It's been a long time. Good to see you guys, my fellow patriots, my fellow Americans. Welcome back to another episode of Waking the People. It's been 4 years, but as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Rumble. Don't forget to leave a comment, leave a like. Let us know what you think about the show. It's been this has been in the works for a little bit. I'd say probably for about like a month and a half. We had the idea to bring it back for a numerous different amounts of reasons, but similar to why the show really started in the first place, the whole idea of waking the people. Back in 2021, 2020, 2020, the height of COVID, the height of censorship. Now is like a completely different world as far as censorship goes. We probably don't have anything to worry about. Back then, we had a lot to worry about, but similar message, similar things that we're going to touch on. It's been a while, so if we're a little rusty and the first few episodes, we're going to fill up Rivers this thing. We're going to come out of retirement and we're going to make it happen. It's been a minute since we thrown the pigskin around, but we're going to make it happen. Excited, a little bit different show as far as what we're going to talk about. We have some base points that we're going to discuss as far as what our previous listeners and that used to listen to us back in the day, what Waking the People was about then to now is very different, and that's probably because of a lot of the things that has happened not only in our society, but also in our own personal lives, and we feel that by doing that, we're going to give the viewers a lot more value.
Yeah, absolutely. So on a personal side for me, one of the things that hit me hard about the previous show was we were so involved with federal level politics. In the previous administration, I was beyond no fan of. I absolutely held them in absolute disdain for what they were doing to us as a country, because I'm an independent, right? I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, but I'll tell you that before I supported other Democrats, it would be a very long time. But also I sit back with a skepticism towards Republicans as well. But it just drove me mad. Like really, what it was emotionally distracting, where I needed to really focus more on business than I did need to focus on the political level at the federal, although it did affect us. It affected us pretty heavily, but there's less you can do on a federal level, but there's more you can do on a local. So if I'm going to put my energy back into what's going on politically now, I'm going to make it more of that local level, because that's where we experience the majority of our challenges that we can actually do something about. If everybody took more responsibility on the local level, federal would bend the knee to all local. No, just that's where their support is. So with that, we're changing gears. Like for myself, I'm doing something I'm more passionate about than just going on about how effed up the administration is, right? As far as everything goes,
we do have a producer that likes to talk.
Yes, we do have a producer. She's a little bitchy at times, but we bend the knee when she starts to complain. But on this, what's more impassioning for me is I'm more business. I love business. It's I was explaining to a friend of mine, he'll travel the country to go to sports games, like football specifically, with some of his buddies that are in that affluent category as well. They can just pick up or leave every, once or twice a year to go away for a week just for football. To me, it doesn't appeal to me. There'd have to be something else to get me to want to do that, because football is not my sport. Nothing really. I mean, I like mixed martial arts, and I do appreciate boxing and self-defense, but I'm not really going traveling the country for that. what would have me travel the country is business conventions and places that I can learn about business. So it really got me to the point now that I'm just like, I can't help it. I steer almost all conversations into something that has to do with business. I can't go anywhere. I went to a hibachi last night and I started analyzing the model that company was working with and the way that their management systems had the employees interacting with the customers. Like, that's how I am. I enjoy the hell out of this stuff.
Meaningful interaction.
So if there's a jersey to put on, that's the one I'm putting on.
Yes.
The business jersey. I want, you will get me excited talking about that. So what my gear for this show now is to talk about local politics and how it affects us in our business and family lives, predominantly through the business direction. So if you work for somebody, we will talk about how to be supportive of that company, because nearly everybody complains about the company they work for. I would say it's pretty fair, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you know how to support the company, one, you're more prone to being promoted and career advancement. The other is you're less likely to stress over the decisions the company makes, because you'll try to figure out how to make it make sense and make it work. So, but if you're not in that category, but you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner currently, or you plan to open one in the future, or you really like to just try something different, this is the content that I'm going to be bringing to this channel. And then again, with local and how that affects businesses as a whole. So basically things that matter to people's lives, especially through the mansplain direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's really an idea of the show. A big talking point that Chad and I had probably about a month ago when we decided to bring the show back was the dying middle class, right? The dying middle class. The middle class isn't failing in the United States of America; it's being used, and that's not an accident. That's the entire point. The middle class is being squeezed now more than ever. And what that means is, it used to be that the middle class was a destination. It was a place that we could go to as, socio-economical steps, which is the middle class really separates societies, especially like communist societies and other societies of that nature. It's an important destination. But the problem is that back in the 50s and the 60s, the middle class was a destination for the United States. Now it's really not a destination. It's where you want to get to and then make other steps to actually get out of the middle class, which is where entrepreneurship and business creations come from.
Yeah, and it's the American dream, really. That's something that I've noticed. We're in a position now where these concepts of racism and other things that divide us through and to me, they're intentional. They're designed to break us apart, because the best way to beat a very strong enemy is to get them to fight within themselves. And that's exactly what we've been doing.
Tribalism. Yeah.
We have been put into a position where if you're, white, straight, you're, no matter what you do, you're wrong. That racism will be the thing that takes you out in life. They'll take your job away. They'll take away your options for all kinds of things, advancements that even fit in a proper society. They take it all away if you fell under that guise, so it's been weaponized. It's not something, it's completely lost its value. So all it's done is that it was overused and it became the boy that cries wolf.
And there's a lot of things that contribute to that too. I mean, just from a policy standpoint, we've seen a lot of good tax cuts under the Trump administration, but a lot of them have been corporate tax cuts. And we're also living off of the 10 million plus illegal immigrants that entered the country back when the show started in 2020, over 4 years. So illegal immigrants receiving government aid, and many lower income families, like we saw at the government shutdown as far as SNAP goes. SNAP's a lot of people complain about a lot of other foreign entity money that is spent, but it is nowhere near the amount of money that we spend on SNAP. And what happens is that the vast majority of the middle class actually spends the most in taxes. So we have the range. I have a range on it, which kind of surprised me. Do you think you could guess what the range is on the middle class as far as the annual income? This is per household too, so it could necessarily not just be one person. It could be a family of two, or
so I believe it starts at the bottom is going to be closer to 50. And then on the top end is going to be 375, 400.
Yeah.
Something of that nature.
Yeah.
So your range of the middle class is it's a pretty decent range.
It's a big gap.
And an individual or household.
And they end up pretty much paying, like the top end, like the top 1%, they pay around, what's the percentage? I believe it's 40% of overall taxes, the top 3%. But then you have the middle class, which is predominantly what most Americans are in, end up paying 61% of the total actual taxes. that feed that most people in the United States of America, the people on SNAP benefits and illegal immigrants, they feed nothing into it. So you have a small, I guess not relatively small, but you have a large demographic of the population that's still struggling, that is still carrying the weight for everybody else.
Yeah, the net taxpayers.
Yeah.
Right. So the difference between a net taxpayer and a non-net taxpayer is at the end of the year, do you pay M or you do get a refund? So you're a net taxpayer if you pay M. So if you don't qualify for, being paid. So that's where they start to shift it. Now you'll get less of your money. The higher you go up, you get less of the money that you pay in and a return, to the point that you no longer get a return. You have to pay in annually, unless you have a good tax. Well, even then, with even a good accountant, you still may end up having to pay something in at the end of the year. But anyway, so we have a depth of misunderstanding when it comes to growing the middle class. What a lot of us understand through our upbringing, myself included, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. My first business was in 7th grade. And the only reason why it failed, by the way, is because the school shut it down.
The system.
Yeah, the damn system, man.
system.
It was like, Rage Against the Machine up in there. Well, before they sold out.
Right? Yeah, before they sold out.
Fuck you, I will take the shot if you told me.
Yeah, and it's kind of designed, and it's a good thing you started that then, because it shows everyone what everyone goes through. They go through the American education system, and the American education system is really designed not to create entrepreneurs, but to create workers.
Absolutely. Well, and it's to create the workers, because how many business owners can you have? You can't have too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Exactly.
To use that old adage. So, but yeah, so you can't have everybody is one particular classification of employment. You can't have 100% of the people of all the decision makers, because there's a lot of people that have bad decisions. So you have a lot of people that have bad decisions. So, and then you have people that they just don't look bad decisions because they're ignorant. They don't understand that. And what they do is they judge from their current position, and they don't look for understanding. Hear exactly what these larger companies are doing and why they're doing it. You may just look at it and be like, I got fired or I was laid off in the holidays. Yes, by the way, that is the most common timeline you're going to be laid off, unless there's a merger coming up, which we have a ridiculous amount of private equity now in the country. It's been around for a while, but it's become very, very financially advantageous for a lot of these companies to become financial firms that become private equity firms. So we'll talk about that, what I'm up to with my sweat equity firm. And we're going to continue to talk about, like, for me, it's the gears in the system that we're missing that prevents us from moving into that middle class, where you become a net taxpayer.
Yes.
Right, where you get into that classification. Yeah, it sucks to pay income tax, in which, God, I hope that Trump can come through with the abolishing the income tax.
That would be amazing.
Oh my God. Look, I've already loved the guy. I know we have our own opinions, but I already love a lot of the policies. By the way, I love
that. That idea I love. Yeah.
By the way, I follow no one as a savior. So that's the thing that the right has a problem with.
Yes.
That if you're not Christ-like, then there's something wrong, and you can lose credibility for not being Christ-like. The left says, we don't give a damn what you've done. Say this.
Exactly.
If you don't say this, then we will take you apart based on what you've done.
Tribalism, talking points. Yes. So it's actually a very good time to start the show, especially with this topic, because we're both business owners, very new business owners. So it's a good time. So Chad, if you had to give the people listening that are interested in entrepreneurship, that work a 9 to 5, I guess you'd call it, doesn't necessarily be those hours, but are more in a traditional base of employment, what are some things that you think that they should do starting out to really help get it? Because starting a business is not easy, and it's actually really scary, and it takes like, I started mine last February, and like just now, a year later, it's actually starting to pick up. So there was a lot of times where, I mean, money was not made over a period, but just getting into it and actually starting it is what.
So it all depends. What's your how risk adverse are you? Now, I'm very low with my risk adverse. I'm more open to risk, but it depends on that. It also depends on what your cushion is, if you have to have that. Some people need to have the consistency of a safety cushion in order to move forward. Some people need to just be dropped off naked and afraid, and they'll figure it out, right? So it all depends on that. What specifically, if I'm talking to you from a consulting perspective, what specifically is it that you enjoy doing that you're not going to be like, oh God, I got to go do this after work? So is it interacting with people? Because if interacting with people can lead into an aptitude for sales, it's relationship building is also another key feature for sales. Sales is one of the fastest ways to grow wealth. So if you can sell, you can pretty much do anything. When it comes to business. Now, there's always more to it, by the way. If you don't have service, but you're really good at sales, but your service end sucks, or you don't have anybody to service people, your reputation will kill you.
And I like how you said after work, because that's really what it comes down to, especially with our current economic climate, our current political climate. We're in a space now to where you're going to have to sacrifice in a sense. And a lot of that's time, a lot of it is, let's say you work the conditions, the normal schedule, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
That means you're going to have to sacrifice some Saturdays and Sundays. You're going to have to sacrifice time to build it. And there's a lot of different ways that you can start doing it. I would say the first thing is trying to find some other kind of side hustle that can start to condition you to what it actually means to run a business. For me, it was Uber Eats. I've been doing Uber Eats for 5 years, right? So just after I get off work, I'll go do 2.5 hours of Uber Eats. There's other things you can do. You can Amazon freelance and drop off for Amazon if you want. There's other dog walking apps and, grocery store shopping apps, kind of building that conditioning just like you would in the gym.
Yeah.
Like a good comparison.
Treat it like a muscle.
Yeah.
So with that, it's if you don't have a lot of framework for starting something, those are great places to go because they give you guidance to run by, but you still have to do your own schedule. Right. So you'll have specific freedom. So whenever you want to make a specific behavior change or the specific aspect about developing somebody's not personality, but skill sets, there's a thing called scaffolding that it's where you have somebody who's competent that puts a structure around something that needs to be accomplished in somebody else's life. And in the consulting world or the business world, like for me, I would do a full analysis on that individual. Like SWOT analysis would be one thing. Your time budget, what you actually have available, which is like the after work statement. Finding something that you're interested in doing, so you're more likely to do it because you have to build a habit, which builds like that muscle, second nature behavior. I will do typically. I also do the time budget is what do you do throughout your day, right? Whenever you're outside of your working hours, in your working hours, there are very few companies that are going to allow you to pursue anything else. If they find out you've been looking stuff up online, you can get trouble all the way to terminated. If you're taking phone calls that are not related to your current job in those times and you're working 9 to 5 with paying you hourly, every minute that you're there, that you're not on break or lunch, you've agreed to being at servitude to them. So if you're making personal calls or business calls that are not related to their company, they may fire you. So my advice would be don't get fired unless you have a very high tolerance to risk. So, but the time audit is, I ask, what's your free time look like? And most people will tell me their free time is when all obligations are taken out and, they've got nothing to do but maybe watch TV. That's usually the time most people talk about for free time. And I'm not talking about that. I'm actually talking about free time for your mind, not just your body.
Exactly.
So when you get in your car, what do you listen to?
Yes.
Because if you're not listening to something to help expand your knowledge on a specific subject, it's going to be real hard to get obsessed.
Yes.
You want to be successful, get obsessed. But that's why when I talk about, like, my thing is I wear the jersey of business. I don't wear the jersey of the football team or any other sports teams. Mine's business. It's what I love. So when I talk about that, that's what I mean. Like, my free time is always consumed with something educational.
Yeah.
It's always, I may listen to 3 to 8 minutes worth of music a week, and that's probably not even accurate. It's probably less than that. So, but the rest of it is I'm listening to something to further my understanding in different business models or how somebody else could take those skills that they have in order to make something for themselves. So if you're uncertain by what you want to do, by all means, please shoot us an email. We may bring you on the show.
Leave a comment. Leave a comment.
Leave a comment. Get in touch with us to ask, right? When we get to the point we can start using the chat features and things like that with the sites that we have, we'll do that as well. because I'd love to be able to expand on it, but it's more specific to individuals, right?
Yes.
If you have a specific, so a few other things to add to this, if you have a specific skill that you actually kind of, like for me,
What you're
mowing my
good
own
at.
grass.
Yeah. What you're good at.
Right. Yeah. Or at least something that even if you're not necessarily good at, but it's cathartic.
Yeah.
Right. So like mowing my own grass. I mow my grass. I don't pay somebody to do it because that's actually a meditative, therapeutic time for me.
Mm-hmm.
I can reflect. It's got me doing something. I can look back at the end of it and have the satisfaction of a job well done. You know, it's so I get the reward sequences that I'm looking to constantly program myself with. So, you know, effort with a specific way of appreciating the outcome of that effort instead of missing it and then feeling burnout.
And you might ask yourself as a listener, like, how does this relate politically? And it relates a lot politically. And some of our MAGA followers are going to get mad at me about this, but I've been thinking about this idea for a long time, and Chad actually did a really good job of explaining it. It's building a foundation. If you think that Trump and JD Vance and all these MAGA supporters are going to come in and really change your individual life, you are mistaken. Like, that is not, and I think especially on the right, is really feeling this right now with the civil war that's going on in the Republican Party, is that that savior complex that Chad talked about. And a lot of people probably expected Trump to come in and just their individual life would change immediately and see benefits, but that's not the case. You really got to do it for yourself. And the way you do that is by building a foundation, by building what do you actually believe in, and also you have to get in the mindset and thinking of, why do I want to start a business? Why do I want to go make more side money if I'm already pretty comfortable where I am as far as my 9-to-5 job? And I would just tell you that you don't have a choice. Like, it's not going to get any better is what's going to happen. It's going to continue to get worse. And if you're not continually trying to stay above the curve, wages do not keep up with costs. No matter who's the president, everything is going to continue to go up. And healthcare, housing, childcare for some people, education, you have to do things on your own to actually keep that going, or else you're going to fall behind no matter what.
To explain a little bit more also about why things are always going to go up, even whenever, because oil is a big indicator of the direction of the economy, because it is involved in everything that is really essential to make the economy move. Energy dominated by oil, that's going to be a big direction. So when you see gas prices going down, typically economically, you see the prices follow suit. What has happened is that we still have, I call it like capitalism madness. And by the way, when I say this stuff, I'm a capitalist. I fall into what I call ethical capitalism. I'm the one that wants to eliminate the reasons why the left like to resort to communism, where ignorance causes arrogance and problems, where people will have failure to launch, because you have a lot of people that don't want to share the wealth when it comes to the success model, or they're just driven by this massive greed factor that causes us to constantly need to do better than last year. Well, here's a problem that if your business did 500 million last year, you as a CEO have to validate your efforts for that year. And the process, by the way, typically measured quarterly, but you could also have shorter terms depending on if they're on a performance plan or not. And yes, CEOs get put on performance plans. They basically get the nudge. If you don't produce, you're out. So if you don't increase the business overall profit or their better margins by a specific percentage that business dictates, you will end up getting cut, and nobody wants to lose their job. So every single company is trying, or at least the majority of companies are trying to figure out how to do a little bit better than last year. Well, there comes to a point where the only way to do that is through increasing the price to the service or product side of things, and reducing the labor or because that'd be under service, or the production portion, which also labor is under that. They reduce the output. So that's where you see these end of year cuts, stuff like that, because it's a trick they use to increase the fiscal budget at the end of the year. So I just got tired of the rat race. I miss the golden Rolex generation. If you're not familiar with that, that's where pensions were provided by companies.
Yeah.
Golden Rolex was the thank you for your service. You have been, a wonderful contribution to this company's growth. We're going to give you a Rolex. We're going to throw you a retirement party, and then we're also going to give you a pension. Which is most people that watch this, or at least some people that watch our show, won't know what a pension is necessarily, but you'll understand 401k. because 401k pretty much eliminated the pension for a lot of companies. I'm a big advocate for bringing back that part of America.
Me too. Me too.
I want the golden Rolex. So that's the business models that I'm creating, is to honor and give ownership to people that are in, the business, that actually are the people doing the work. So eliminate where people are complaining that send our youth into communism or communist mentalities and ideas. Socialism, by the way, is the way you sell communism, in my opinion. They're very similar in overall. Like, the outcome is still the same.
Yeah,
it's just similar how
overall
it's
idea.
It's all about authoritarianism. So they just want a complete takeover. So with that, for me, if we're teaching the future generations how to do business correctly, they're going to be more politically savvy. They're going to pay attention to what's causing them problems. If they see their taxes increase, by the way, you can have a county tax that is not the same as the city tax or the state tax. You could have a city tax also. So you can have a lot of things. Here in Florida, Citrus County's gas tax is higher than it is in Hernando and Pasco. So you go into Citrus County to get gas, and you live in Hernando County, you're going to learn very quickly that gas is more expensive in Citrus than it is in Hernando. So to kind of start dropping dimes on where the areas are living. So yeah, when you look at it that way, you start understanding, well, if the gas tax is that, why is it that, what does the gas tax go to? And that's where you start looking at local policies. So you can understand, this is what's being voted on by your representatives, and is that in your favor? So should you start going to these city meetings or these council meetings, or should you start showing up and understanding what's being voted on?
Exactly.
Because if you don't, you are always going to be subject to the tax. Now, for me, I don't have a problem with taxes as long as it's justifiable and I can agree with where that money's being spent. But as we're learning with all the fraud all over the country, but we're going to keep it local again. Florida, I haven't seen as much fraud.
Yeah, me neither.
But when you get to states like Minnesota, California, Colorado, New York, actually even some parts of Texas, unfortunately. You just see that you got a lot of this fraud going on. If people were more business savvy, they'd be more interested in what's going on in their community, which would be more business or more business politics than it is to just, your personal stuff.
People get real excited about federal elections. I mean, this year we have a state governor race that's coming up that we will touch on, but not too much today. But by far, local politics will affect you much more than federal presidential politics do. But most people only focus on that because it almost becomes like a team aspect. There's some, this is my team, I'm going to vote for my team. And also another big part of the show, like I personally have aspirations for this, is that in local government, I think it's important that if you are able to, if you have the desire to start getting more people involved in actually running for those city council spots. And like taking it upon ourselves, that's what I want Waking the People to be, is taking it upon yourself to make a difference, right? We took 4 years off, we're coming back. And the big motivation, especially with local politics, if you're willing and able to go to the meetings, that would be a first start. Let's say you don't want to run for office. I know that politics can be kind of scary and some people just don't want to deal with it, which I completely understand. But taking the initiative on yourself to focus on those small races, those city council races, like Treasure Island, if you don't know, you've seen some of the stuff going on in Treasure Island, it's a nightmare down there. I mean, that city council does not know what they're doing whatsoever. But a lot of people,
that's been my experience in Treasure Island my entire life.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, it's because maybe the demographics, a lot of older people down there that are retired, they don't necessarily want to take it upon themselves to go and run for those city council spots. They just rather sit back and have someone who they think is more adequate run it, but that's not the case. Got to take it upon ourselves to make a difference, not only in business, but in local politics. So focus on those local races, especially this year. I know that we're going through some, at least statewide and individual, especially like Pinellas County. Luna is up for re-election this year as well. But taking it upon ourselves to focus on those small races and not just, flip the page and wait till 2028 or.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You have to, it's really like, I'm not going to tell people what they need to do. I'm not going to do that unless you ask me my opinion. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but I will say what I think is going to be best for a lot of people to do.
Yes.
So you individually do your thing, whatever it is. If you ask me for my opinion or you ask Josh, we'll happily talk about it. Now, when it comes to what will be best for long term is where we can speak about things like that. Individually, what works best may be harmful for you initially.
Yeah.
Because if you're receiving income from a method that it could be antiquated or just against your virtues or your values, but yet you traded your moral compass for money, it's going to hurt when you take that Band-Aid off. But I promise you're going to sleep better long term once you get reestablished. So there's a lot to this whenever it comes to that. My thing is, like, figure out the thing you're going to be obsessed with, because the thing that you will become is the thing that will change your life. But those thoughts have to step in. So what you get obsessed with, you're going to think about regularly. When you think about it regularly, it's going to start shifting your reality. That's what's going to make sense to you. And before you know it, that's all that you really see, which is the goal that you plan to create, you want to manifest, or your planned actions are. That will start to become who you are before you officially realize you're there.
Exactly.
So whatever you conceive as the idea of success is likely something that you're going to miss when you achieve it.
Yes.
Because you're not going to have the presence of mind to realize you got there, unless it's a solid number in the bank account or a specific amount of vehicles that you're going to own, or a certain size house, or something like that.
Exactly.
Other than that, you're going to miss most likely. And then you're going to be ridiculed over the things you miss when you're that absent-minded, because typically that also is where the complaints come from family. Your real legacy. If you have children, that's your real legacy long-term, because that's your genetics. They may complain that you're never home. You're the guy that makes money, or the woman that makes money, and the family has just become dependent on you making money and not necessarily you helping rear them to your fullest extent. And that can create resentment and all kinds of stuff that unfortunately tears families apart.
Yeah.
So we want to pull this thing all back together, start creating good, healthy relationships with our community, and also put together something that makes meaning in people's lives, and stop this fucking credit race that we're doing, or that's actually more of a debt race that we're all doing.
It is. Yeah.
And we seem to measure success and happiness by things that are so superficial that they're gone by the time you wake up.
Yeah, exactly.
So coming up with the best method for us moving forward is definitely one that we want to speak to you about what matters most whenever it comes to local. Going to these meetings and all of that, you're going to see, Josh and I there. We'll do live postings while we're there, stuff like that, so you guys understand, hey, we are there. We're learning what's going on. When you have these representatives come up that are wanting to run again, should you support them? And this is what they stand for, so that you better understand. Republicans don't get away with lying as much as Democrats do. And again, this is coming from an independent. I don't have a dog in that fight. The dog that I have in that fight is what's true and what's most honest. That's my dog. I just don't find that a lot in Democrats. And even on a local level. The last Democrat I talked to on a local level was a guy running for school board. He openly admitted to me that he thought it was okay to have, graphic images and storylines inside of elementary school libraries and classrooms. And I was like, I really feel very strongly that this person wouldn't be safe around me if I were to see them in person. He was insisting, he talked to me on the phone. He actually had one of his volunteers call me to see if I would vote for him. And after I gave her a little something about the way I felt about the guy, he's actually standing right here. He'd love to speak with you. Yeah.
Put him on the phone.
Yeah. He got on the phone with me. And by the end of it, I'm like, well, he's charismatic. And that's one of the things that wins races.
Yeah, it is.
But overall, the policy is, just because somebody's charismatic doesn't mean that he's going to create that he would not create the environment that will put my child in harm.
Exactly.
In harm's way. What matters to me is family, it's community, it's small business and mid-sized businesses. It's living up to the expectations you actually have deep down inside of yourself and creating the kind of life that you want to have.
Exactly.
So take the fear out.
I love how you mentioned oil, because there are some major world news that will show you what we're talking about, especially when it comes from the squeezing the middle class. You mentioned debt, right? Like our debt is also one thing. And I'm sure everyone's seen the incidents that happened in Venezuela. What is it, 2 weeks now? I think about 2 weeks now. And I see a lot of the big media is telling the American people that this is about drugs and this is about socialism, but they are being lied to. It's not about that at all. What it's about is it's about the petrodollar. Are you familiar with the petrodollar, Chad? The petrodollar. So back in the 70s, the United States of America made an agreement with Saudi Arabia that we would protect their interest as far as the Saudi. Because remember, the Saudi Arabia the country's named Arabia. Saudi is the royal family. So the United States of America made a pact with Saudi Arabia that said, we will make sure you don't get overthrown, because if you pay attention, you can tell that in the Middle East, there's a lot of uprising and people with a lot of regime changes. We will protect your interest as a family, but you have to sell oil under the dollar. So across the world, whenever you buy oil, it's done through US dollars. That's the currency that you must trade it through. What that does is that it makes everyone have a surplus of US dollars. So you need dollars on hand to actually buy oil. Again, big media fails a lot, because some people don't know that in June 9th, 2024, Saudi Arabia decided not to renew the petrodollar. So what that means is that now they're opening up the market to accepting other currencies to actually buy oil. And what that means for the United States, and especially for Florida, is that our power as a country, one of the big reasons is the petrodollar. And that is why we're the world reserve currency. And that's why really our debt, like, you know, I don't like the national debt either, but that's why we can have, you know, trillions of dollars in debt, and we don't really see it. We get some inflation, we get things like that, but you don't see it at a mass scale like you would like Greece, for example, or other countries that have major debt problems. We don't see the effects of that as much because of the petrodollar and because of the United States being the world reserve currency. So Venezuela has the most oil reserves of anywhere on planet Earth, right? And there's this group called BRICS. Have you heard of BRICS before, Chad? Yeah, but BRICS, yeah. So, you know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa were the original founding members, or at least when it became BRICS. It had a couple other names before. But so BRICS, actually the day before we took out Nicolas Maduro, Maduro, the day before, the day of, I guess technically you could say, China was meeting with them. So what it really comes down to is that BRICS has been trying to change the petrodollar to where other countries that are maybe a little more blacklisted in the sense of gaining, you know, global economic power to trade dollars in their currency, whether it be yen, which I think is what they're pushing the most. So we went in there not only to take the oil, but we also went in there to let BRICS know that our hemisphere is off limits. And when you come into our hemisphere, there's going to be repercussions if you're trying to remove us from the petrodollar. Once we get removed from the petrodollar, in the sense of it's on a mass scale, we really haven't seen too much of it now. But if the United States were to ever lose the power of the petrodollar truly, we will be absolutely fucked. And we showed the rest of the world with this incident exactly what every other country has been saying. Now, again, I'm pro-America. I'm America first. But when you go on a global scale, we almost look like bullies. Might look like bullies. So we just showed the world, hey, either abide by the petrodollar or these are the consequences. And this is going to be in the short term, it's going to be good for us, but in the long term, it's going to be a bad thing, because other countries that were maybe on the fence thinking about joining BRICS, who have actually gained some momentum as far as other countries joining, or going to the petrodollar and joining the United States, it kind of put people on the fence like, damn, you know, if you don't do what they say, they'll come in and Blackhawk your ass and take you out in your PJs, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Which is the accumulation of the others that are blacklisted in this. One thing about economic value when it comes to the dollar or any country's currency is how accepted or wanted is that outside of the country that you're in. If you have other countries that use your monetary system as their exchange or included in their exchange, then especially if it's a dominant factor, then it will be something that increases your economic value, because that dollar has more value at that moment for buying power. So, I mean, it's a dynamic thing. It's not just
a lot of moving parts. Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
The simple side of this is look, it does not matter what your idea is whenever it comes to what we think as America goes, that our narrative is the narrative everybody's going to believe. Well, that's actually the case for every country. So as far as us being bullies on every country or to any country, that's going to be based off the narrative that country goes by.
Exactly.
You know, some countries will look at us as liberators, and they're going to be like, God, thank God they went in there and they saved that country.
Which is a sentiment.
You know,
Yeah.
And then you'll have others, no matter what you do, it's the same as, it's very much like high school.
Mhm.
High school is a great concept whenever you want to look at humanity and the way that human beings behave, because you have such an obvious overreaction or dramatization or sensationalism with high school behavior. But
Mhm.
when you come out of that, if you look at it from the mile high view and look at economics and you look at the behaviors of countries, they behave very much like people in the sense of like an individual or a small group of individuals, even though it's a very large group of individuals, that still groupthink still comes in. So when you say, okay, well, there's going to be countries that look at the United States and say, hey, they're bullies. They're going to look at us as bullies no matter what we do. We've been sending out aid, legitimate aid that has no real tethering that would be overly obvious, you know, in the sense of like, oh, we give you this aid, you're going to owe us this. You know, and we probably have had a lot of that, but it's not on the forefront. You'll have it where it's very obvious. Just take it like Biden and Burisma.
Mhm.
You know, fire the prosecutor.
Gender studies in Africa.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stupidity.
Millions.
Yeah. Fraud. Goddamn. Anyway, so yeah, that stuff aggravates the hell out of me. I've got a very strong sense of justice, and we're doing the right thing. And anyway, we'll talk about that more as time goes on. But yeah, so when we look at it and say, okay, well, as you said, the countries will look at this like we're the bully. So what?
Yeah.
They're going to. It's like hearts and minds. It's not just for politics. You know, it's also for national sanctity.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at it, you can say that, you know, the Western countries are under assault.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not going to shift too far into that because we'll stick to our current talking points. But, you know, you can say that because look at everything that's going on. If you control the food sources, you can control the people, and you do it through their belly.
Exactly.
Right. So if people are starving, they get angry and they may want to revolt. But if you hold that long enough, the majority will die down.
Exactly.
It's only the diehards that will continue. Which is a smaller group, and you can isolate them, and then you can narrate whatever you want over them, you know, so that you can make them an enemy of the people instead of actually an advocate for the people. So you have countries like Holland, you have countries like the UK, you have some multiple different European countries. France is going through this as well, where they're taking farmland away through government actions. United States, eminent domain. There's other ways they do it here in the United States, but that's one way for government to be able to take land from people. And if they want to take it, they really can. It's not so big in the United States because we still have some of our strongholds.
Yeah.
But other countries, though, like France right now, you've got farmers that are loading up in the streets with manure. Now, I know we said we keep this at local.
Yeah.
And this will be coming back to local.
It will.
But you have that. In Holland, you have it where farmers are also doing the same thing. And, you know, a lot of this stuff is like, why are they trying to do all these things that affect, you know, food, like, you know, production and agriculture? South Africa is very big on agriculture, and a lot of the farmlands are being taken away from the white settlers and given back to, you know, some of the black natives, as they say. And they don't know how to farm. A lot of them don't, so the farms become desolate and no longer producing, and it reduces the food source. So it actually further agitates the people that are angry about people that are there actually productively producing. So for me, get away from the business, from the monetary. What does that business do to service society?
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, all over the world, we got these things going on. To me, there's a bigger agenda. We can get caught up into it. We can get into all kinds of what people would qualify as conspiracies. I just look at it from the long-term outcome. If you take these factors away, what does it do to this? You know, and this is the survival that we all want. You know, where we want to thrive, not just survive.
Sometimes imperialism is necessary. I think the left's not going to like to hear that, but what would happen if America did not protect its future interests? And I'm not for or against, I'm kind of indifferent. The situation of Venezuela, which we'll, you know, in a little bit, we'll get back to how that's going to affect Florida and as an individual state, but preserving the empire of America is extremely important. Like, if things were to fall apart, if you think it's bad now, if that were to happen, I guess sometimes these lefties need to be explained that if that were to happen, they're not going to look at you as some kind of savior. You know, you're going to be the same as everybody else. So it'll be worse. Yeah, it'll be worse. Yeah.
You went from them expecting you to save them, to now you can't even follow through with that.
Exactly. So we have to have
to be disappointed. Now it's like you hurt my feelings by being disappointed.
Yes. Yeah. got to have some imperialism. So
Yeah.
what do you think? And especially in the state of Florida, we have a large population of Venezuelans who are either illegally migrated or legally migrated or are on refugee status. What do you think is going to affect the state overall? I know that there's a lot of people that are going to talk about going back, which I have heard that. And I'm sure some will, because especially in that community, there are people that want to go back to their home country and better it, because I mean, let's face it, the dude crashed the economy by like 70%. I don't know, you have the most oil reserves on planet Earth and you destroy a country like Venezuela. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities for those people that lived there, which gears into kind of the illegal immigration that we have. Some of it was probably people were fleeing that, but how do you think it's going to affect Florida as a whole? Because there's Cuba involved too, which we can.
Well, here's one of the things that I have is that what they say is Americans are fat and lazy. They're right. You know, there are a lot of people that have become used to being entitled, and they expect things, and then they find themselves on welfare or something like that. And if you have a class of people that don't need to work, but they have income coming in, they won't need to work. But then everybody else says, well, we only have this kind of labor that we can produce. We have an entire segment of this country that is not producing. They're not doing anything for society.
Massive amount of this.
And I'm not saying, if you have a disability, there's still something you can do. It doesn't matter. There's always some place for you to fit in the economic system. You may not like the pay that's in that, but here's the thing about it that I'm a huge advocate for, and what my company stands for is developing people into their truest potential. Your truest potential may be entry level for a mid-level management, and that's your highest limit. Wouldn't it be great to get there? But you may have aptitude that works better somewhere else. But we have a dormant class of people. They don't do anything to contribute to our society. So you say we have a population of this. This is what our social demand for required to stabilize our society is this. And who wants to pick veggies, and who wants to pick strawberries and whatever, right? You have, if you're waiting for farmers to automate their crop, you're reducing the jobs that your children could use in order to understand business, or understand the workforce, so that they can move themselves along, versus, okay, they get a comfortable job where they demand more money, but they never even move up. So they expect to make $20+ an hour working as a cashier at McDonald's or another fast food restaurant. What's going to incentivize them to move up? What's going to incentivize them? Whenever they can live at home with their parents, they can start paying rent, some of them, right? And then they're like, oh, this is my part of the house. And they start treating it, but they never get out of that. It's actually what they call failure to launch. Well, failure to launch used to be overbearing parents that wouldn't actually get their kids to actually move into adult behaviors that gets them to be self-sufficient. So we have these people that will not, they're not incentivized to work. Well, right now we have the food stamps getting cut down, or the electronic benefits. So you've got that that's coming down, which is now you're limited on what you can get, which is good. Very good. Because also whenever you put in garbage, you get garbage thoughts. And I don't mean like you put in garbage, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's horrible. No, it creates the way your brain processes reality is painted by the stuff that you're putting in.
Exactly.
So if we want to change this entire thing, we have to figure out how to bridge the gap between I don't need to work because I'm getting this kind of money in. Put people back in a situation where they actually work through their problems and relationships versus dump the person that they're involved with that have made commitments to you, and or you've made commitments to, and give people the wherewithal to actually learn life lessons when you go through that. I'm not saying stay in abusive relationships, but also that's become a term that we can't even rely on anymore.
Yeah.
Like you say abusive relationship 30 years ago and people be like, oh my God. Right. It's either a high level of emotional abuse or there's domestic violence. And that's damn near it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And except for the psychopaths. So now you say abusive relationships, like, because they didn't compliment my eyeshadow.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, people, you've made language hyperbolic. You've sensationalized everything. And now we can't even communicate in the same language. We use the same words, but our communication isn't even the same. It's further dividing the community, which further divides the country.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's just say, fuck all the nonsense. Let's not get caught up in the craziness of it. And let's create a way of getting out of that by getting you to stay focused today on something that matters to you. And then tomorrow, that thing that matters to you will matter to somebody else. And then the day after that, it'll matter to somebody that they know. And before you know it, community starts to come together for us.
Yes, yeah.
Versus, and I don't mean that exactly. Okay, well, you're going to get this. It's how you spread your ideas to make a difference in society.
Exactly. And and going back to like Florida, the state of Florida, and the Venezuela situation, I'm sure that some will go back.
Yep.
I liked how you brought up as far as farm work, because if you're not from Florida, then that's a major part of our GDP is agriculture and agricultural work. Not too far from here, Plant City. So maybe some of those jobs will open up. I think that a lot of the label of Americans being lazy, I think that's a label given to them by the powers that actually probably leverage illegal immigration work, to make, oh yeah, maybe I am lazy, maybe I don't want to do it. But to your point, $20 an hour going out there and you're picking strawberries or you're working in a field, you are gaining that exposure and you have a good job to make that kind of money. I think if you pitch that to a lot of Americans, they would actually do it. They would be willing to do it, as opposed to, for example, like you said, working at a fast food place with really nowhere to go. Economic, they just, I'm not sure what the minimum pay is. I think it's probably like $17 an hour, maybe a little bit less, $15 an hour. But so you will see some people leave, but probably not a lot of it. We already have a lot of, Alligator Alley kind of got shut down, unfortunately. But we had a lot of, people that were not supposed to be here that were already being sent away. I do think you'll see some people go back naturally. Also, Cuba, Cuba's right there. Miami has a gigantic Cuba population. Venezuela really helped Cuba function as a country. Without Venezuela and without the oil, what they would do is Venezuela would send resources like oil, and Cuba would send to Venezuela like doctors, engineers. So they would kind of trade that aspect. I'll give you a resource if you give me something that I need to help. I don't know how the hell you can fix what Venezuela's in right now, but that was the attempt. Two communist/socialist countries helping one another. Now that pipeline's cut off to Cuba, Cuba will start to fall, and you might see, hopefully, some of the people that are in Miami that are Cuban, Venezuelan, kind of start to maybe think of. I despise Miami, so I don't really go very often, but maybe see the sentiment more of, I'm not Venezuelan, I'm American, and we can kind of strengthen it that way. But it's a big topic,
Yeah. Well, I think part of our issue is also then that people that come here don't assimilate to the point they call themselves American.
They don't.
They'll call themselves something American, which is, okay, I'm okay with that. Versus waving a foreign flag and shitting on ours or burning ours.
Yes. Yeah.
I have no tolerance for you. I'm a patriot. Get the fuck out of my country. But when it comes to, if you want to assimilate, you want to become an American, then you got my support, right? But you need to take the steps. Right? So as far as the Venezuelans that I know, which I know a couple, but I don't really know that many, every Venezuelan that I've talked to, very happy.
Yeah, they've been happy. Yeah,
all of them. Not one is dissented from that. So I don't know, and I don't trust mainstream.
Yeah.
And I've quit trusting the media. 2017, I believe. So I haven't gone back to believing them. Usually I use them for whatever they say is typically going to be 160 or 180 degrees opposite of what they say. Early 20s, you're a teenager or somewhere in your 20s. And you say, I can't live off of that. I can't live off of $20 an hour. I can't live off $22 an hour. I would like for you to consider, how do illegals do it for less?
Yeah.
They're here. They're living in this country. How do they do it for less? Now, there's a couple ways to look at this. One is a lot of them likely don't have subscriptions to every damn streaming service that's out there. They probably don't Uber Eats. Sorry, Josh. They're probably not hiring.
Yeah. Nope.
They cut a lot of their expenses. They typically live in less than what you would consider desirable circumstances. So there may be multiple people living in a single house that would violate code for that house as far as how many people can be in occupancy. They may do things like that, or they may also have a particular political party making sure that they get specific government benefits that you can't.
Exactly.
which would be more reason to hate the other party instead of the one that actually did it to you.
Exactly.
So my thing is, don't expect the bottom to be where you can make your greatest living.
Yep. That desire
Because
to get out of it.
Interests, your entry level should be that.
Yeah.
Minimum wage is designed to be the minimum that they're able to pay you because your skill sets are nothing. And if you're still in minimum wage, that's a direct reflection of your skill sets, and that may be your politics internal of work, and you play very poor politics, which I'm not an advocate for playing politics at work necessarily.
Yeah.
But your interpersonal skills are in such a way that people don't really care to be around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those situations, that's where your work is. It's not demand that they pay you more money. Show them a reason why you are an asset, that if you leave, they're going to hurt. And they know that if they pay you more money, it's likely to keep you around. Make it that they call you in the office to tell you that they're going to give you a raise, versus you go in the office and say, you better give me a raise or I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Because look, McDonald's has already set this system up that is not in your favor. And that system is the speedy system. There's two ways you can use this. If you're not familiar with the speedy system, which I know we've talked about it, but the speedy system is where you simplify the job to make replacement easy, cheap, and efficient. So if the speedy system with McDonald's was, and if you haven't watched the movie The Founders, they did a great job explaining what that is. And the movie is wonderfully entertaining, by the way. If you haven't watched it, watch it at your homework. Condiment person does condiments, bun person does buns, patty person does patties, soda person does sodas, cashier does cashier. And it's like, if you were to leave, it's so incredibly easy to do a break even, which if you're not familiar with that, unless you're a business person, break even is where your business is no longer, it doesn't cost you to have the person on board. It just isn't, they're not making you money yet either. They just don't cost you anymore.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you don't know this, which I know you do, but if other people, if you guys don't know this, if you make $22 an hour, that's not what the company has to pay. That's not your cost. That's actually just your hourly rate.
Yes.
You have to factor in all of the benefits. You have payroll taxes.
Payroll taxes are crazy.
You have so many things that are assigned to you. Every benefit that you have is the company paying their part. And that adds to what it costs per hour to have you. You have workman's comp. You have your insurance policies. You have any benefit whatsoever that you have actually adds to that. When you add in your holidays and time off, your vacation, your PTO, all of that gets factored into the dollar or the hourly amount. My companies, that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
Because I've got a budget in order to make sure I can afford to give people time off. It's not like, okay, you can have your time off. I didn't plan for this. No, there's an account that money sits in that comes off your hourly labor. Or your job performance based off the contract that you're fulfilling, whatever it is, that's where that money comes from. So your hourly rate is not $22 an hour. That's what you get paid.
Yes.
That's not what it costs the company.
No.
So, and then when people are like, I heard this so many times, I hear this all the damn time. So it's a cliche at this point. Well, the company's getting paid this much for me doing this. The company makes $43 an hour for what I'm doing, and they only pay me $14.50. It's like, do you know what it costs to have you?
Yeah.
And do you know what you realize that this is not a charity company?
No.
They're not making your hourly equivalent to their margin, where it's just net profit. That's not theirs.
No.
They've got a lot of expenses when it comes to you. Also, to ensure you have future work. So if you don't know that, if your ignorance is creating a cancerous mindset that's destroying your opportunities. Because it gives you a reason to bitch about it versus research what's necessary to be successful.
Exactly. Like minimum wage, back in the day when we were on the gold standard, you could where I get this job, I am contributing 38, 40 hours a week to this job. I am entitled to receive a living wage, right? And that's not always the case. It's about, you get paid based on the skills you provide, not how much time or how much personal effort you put into it. What skills, what problems can you solve? You have to do, again, what we talked about before, trying to build your own personal skills, make you focus on you, back to that foundation, and that will translate, hopefully, into you finding a better job. But again, the kind of whole base on the show is that it's not an easy time right now to find a job, and it's probably only going to get harder and harder with AI, which is a topic we'll hit later on. But you have to be doing your due diligence and not thinking of, how much money am I bringing in and how much they're paying me, what's my minimum wage. Minimum wage, entry level is exactly what it says, entry level.
Yeah, you have to develop yourself.
Yeah.
And if you spend your entire time listening to music, and when you have opportunities to talk to people, you're like, I don't want to talk to anybody I don't already know. And when you have conversations with people you do know, they're more of what you've talked about before, but just the updated version based off whatever's happened in life. And up until that point, you don't have any fertile soil to grow in. You're not doing anything to better yourself. And I promise you, the lottery isn't waiting to hit you. The lottery's not. It's not waiting to hit you. It's not waiting for giving you the best opportunity.
It's not coming to save
It's
you.
always there, by the way. That's the other crazy ass thing about this is the opportunities for your success are always around you.
Yeah.
You just don't know how to see them, or you don't have the skill sets to act upon them. They're always there. And when you realize that, like really realize, I don't mean conscious. And it's not just the way you perceive it, it's also the reality around you. It's almost like nature decides to start giving you what you demand that it gives you. But you need to demand it in such a way that is, I'm your partner on this process. I'm not just here to destroy you. In the sense, like if you were to look at nature and balance and all that, I don't mean just go out and cut down trees. I mean just nature in the sense of everything around you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to handle that in such a respectful and responsible way, it will eventually end up costing you. So that's where we actually root for the people that are bad, or the people that have bad moral decisions, or leave people in bad situations, is we hope for their demise in a deep level, or at least at a level that brings a degree of satisfaction when you realize it happens, because that's the way you create natural order and balance.
Yeah.
But you're not the one doing it. You're just hoping that karma gets them, right?
Yeah.
Well, the reality is they stack the entire psychology of the world in a way that it will eventually collapse on them. Because you can't go around just taking from people forever.
Yeah.
You will pay a cost for that. So what we have to do is that community approach to things. One, get people to perceive that reality is different based off of the way you think. So if you want to get out of the entry level, well, we have to develop. So you have some people like myself, like I've gone through so many different management roles. I've went through, upper management. I've got into consulting. Everything I've always done has been to try to create a better outcome for everybody around me. And that has gifted me a lot of opportunities to go through the challenges. By the way, the challenges are never, most people call them problems. I call them challenges, because a challenge will bring a lesson. A problem is just you trying to figure out a solution, but that solution isn't dynamic typically. It's just when this thing shows up, you do this, like an antidote to something, versus how do you craft a way of working with something to master it. So if you look at it like a challenge, you're trying to master it. If you're looking at it as a problem, you're trying to avoid it.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
I get to do this versus I have to do this.
Yes, there you go. Absolutely beautiful way of looking at it. So we want to turn this entire thing around and make families important again. Well, when you get done with your work, who do you want to come home to?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And if you're not dating that person, and that person doesn't give you that type of result or reaction to you, you're probably in a relationship that just is sufficing for now. But you may want to start looking at either working on that relationship to change it, or find somebody that is the one you want to go home to.
Exactly.
Because that's your recharge, and that also will give you motivation to want to work harder. Because you want to build that life with that person.
And all starts with you.
Contributes to the family, which is I'm a big advocate for, because the American dream has the family tied to it.
Yeah.
And the best way to take down the American dream is destroy the families. Because once you destroy the families, people and families fight. And now they're busy fighting each other, and people get policies passed that make it worse for them. And it's just this down spiral.
Yep. The attack on the nuclear family has been huge for decades. Again, a lot of different political reasons behind that, but the attack on the nuclear family is huge. And it all goes back to, you got to want it for yourself. I hope what people get out of this episode and more episodes moving forward is to kind of give yourself that mindset to where, like, you really don't have a choice. Like, you can either sit around and bitch about how, gas is expensive. Now it's coming down. That the cost of living is going up, and I am a victim. I have I have no power in changing that.
Mhm.
Or you take what the show is, we want you to take from the show is that, no, I do have the power, and the ways to do it are all around me. Right? You just got to make the decision, whether it be going to the gym in the morning, first thing in the morning, to get your day started, taking on side hustles, or just thinking of ideas of what you could create businesses. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to take personal steps and create small habits. A great book called Atomic Habits. I know you've heard it. Great book.
Definitely.
Little things that will add up. Like, for example, like right now we are in my dining room, and every day seeing the setup, it gives me more motivation. It gives me more reasoning to make better choices, not just inside of Waking the People in the show itself, but my own personal life. What's gonna transition better and give not only the viewers, our beautiful subscribers, value, but also the people in my network. It's because if we're stronger together, right? So again, back to that community, we're stronger together. So we gotta make choices personally till transitions on to our peers and good peers, picking your peers correctly.
Yeah, and so for us, we've changed this because we want to make this more connecting to people. We want to connect better. We want to make a difference more so than what we did before. Before, it's just we were just talking about stuff, and we were one of many, many, many people out there or one group of many people that were just talking about the same things. And it's like whoever is just our followers got it up there.
Exactly.
And that's not what we want anymore. I'm not trying to be any other producer of content. My thing is this: I'm all about success, and I'm all about making sure that I do everything I can to make life different than I've been here. And I'm going to do everything I can moving forward to create the opportunities for people that will help them make those types of changes in their life, where they can say, you know what, this Chad guy really did care enough to change my life. So what we're doing now is giving pieces to help with that. Something else that I'm bringing to the show is my sense of justice. When I find out there's companies that are doing bad things, my thing is to help you guys as the consumers start understanding why you should price shop. Business standards, by the way, business standard is that you will get 3 quotes before you make a decision. That's the minimum, is 3 quotes before you make a decision. So you want to understand multiple things about it. You always want to have an apples to apples comparison. Anytime you get something that's outside of that, you have to re-quote so that you can constantly have the exact same setups on table. I find that a lot of people, unfortunately, in the consumer side of things, outside of business, but consumer side, they don't get 3 quotes.
No.
So one thing that I'm going to be bringing to the show is when I hear from you guys or people in my life where they got 1 quote and then they had somebody from my network, because that's something also that I'm bringing to this as my network is, if you have questions about specific people like accounting or legal or something like that, submit your questions to us, whether in comment form or email or whatever. Get those questions to us, and I will get those to my network of people so that we can give you a best answer. We may even invite, if it's legal, we'll try to invite that person to the show to give direct communication about it, so you can get that, look, they mean business as well as they want you educated. But one thing that came to mind that got my blood boiled, and to the point where I'm like, everything I hear with politics gets me so fired up and just pissed off. But what I really want to do is not just sit and complain about politics. I'd rather take that energy and make a solution. So one thing in particular, there's a person that's a very good friend of mine. She has her homeowner's insurance was canceled on her. They're not going to renew.
Really? Big problem in Florida.
Yeah, and she was paying $5,000 annually on her homeowner's insurance, and she's got a 1,800 to it often doesn't even require underwriting or very minimal. So the policy is a simple policy. They started off paying $3,000 when they first got the house a decade ago. They were just at about mid fives, so about 5,500 roughly on their last policy that wasn't renewing. So they got a quote. One of those quotes was, they said, well, it'll be $6,700 But if you don't have hurricane tie downs on your roof, then it's going to be $13,000
A year.
a year. That's over $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
On insurance alone, and they're currently paying $1,600 roughly. That would add another $500+ a month that they would have to pay. Actually, that would put them out of their house.
Yeah, yeah.
They're paycheck to paycheck, unfortunately. And I'm working diligently on changing that.
Like most people are,
Get them off the paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. That means how we establish hustles and things like that. And I'm not actually a fan of hustles. That's actually a skill thing I'm not too big of a fan of. But so she was offered this $13,000 policy. There's no way she could have actually taken it, but she got so close to the deadline. She had left it up to the other person in the house to actually to get this taken care of. And because they drug their feet, she was left with 2 days left to make this call, to get this secured, or her mortgage was going to go into default.
Yeah, you have to,
because she wouldn't have insurance to cover the mortgage, and she'd be out of contract. She'd violate her contract with the mortgage. So she had to get coverage, and that was it. And when she told me what she was going through, I immediately reached out to one of my people in the insurance world. They write everything, by the way. They're a local company here. It's One Source.
Okay.
Love them to death. These people, immediately he got in touch with her. In less than 15 minutes, she had a quote. And that quote, the last one that she got was $13,000 without the tie down.
Tie downs, yeah.
If she got the tie down, which cost about $2,000 to do roughly, then she was going to have to pay $6,000. She got a quote for $3,200.
Okay.
$3,200, same quote.
Yearly.
Yep, that's it, annually. So that's less than what she was already paying.
Yep.
And it's a secure company. They're not going to kick her off. No, they didn't have to go so aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what the policy's values were, and that's what they wrote for.
Exactly.
So this is the stuff that I'm also bringing to the show. It pisses me off to know that one company was trying to charge her $10,000 more a year because they were ignorant to that world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's something that I want people that comes to this channel. You tell me what your questions are when it comes to business, and I will give you an answer. I will find it if I don't already know.
We'll read it on the show.
We'll give you the information.
We'll put a link in or the email is wakingthepeoplepodcast@gmail.com. It's the same one that we used originally. We'll put it down in the bio, down in the description. So people will actually read them on, we'll finish with them. That would be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Reason to stick around because we're going to give you business builders and also consumer builders.
Yes.
Look, you know what? If you don't like bad companies, stop fucking paying them.
Yeah.
But if you don't know where alternatives for good companies are, that's what I'm out there for.
Yep. We'll help
I'm out to find good, ethical companies that will support people. It's not the lowest cost you can get. That's not what I'm interested in. What I want is I want the best quality, and I want to be able to support companies that are going to stick around. The lowest cost, that business may go out of business.
Yeah.
Before the end of that year that you start with them.
Exactly.
Because they can't sustain themselves. They went after a low cost, and they were hoping people would pay more later. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a gamble. I'm not about that. I'm about quality. Also, using local companies, not international, preferable.
Yep.
Is you'll be paying for your neighbor's way of life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Somebody in your community will be benefiting in their way of life because of you.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm bringing to the show. No longer am I going to sit there and get all kinds of obsessed and ridiculous about, federal politics.
Stupid. Yeah.
Even state level, some of that stuff just isn't going to apply. Although state is far more likely that you're going to experience that than on the federal level.
Exactly.
But on a very local level, county, that's the stuff that, it's probably the least sexy of all of it. Where it gets the least amount of attention and fewer people give a damn about it. But if it has to do with your business in this area, I promise you're going to care more.
And they're always the bigger ones. County governments are all way bigger than state governments are.
Yeah.
They're much, much bigger.
Yep.
So a lot of things. Yeah. A lot of things.
Yeah. So if you're curious about something, that's what I want you to talk to us about. Bring it to our attention. I'm creating a lot of businesses with partners to help give them the American dream, and they get to benefit working with me and my background so that I can verify and make sure that their ability to run that business is there. So it's not just a dream that they have or a gripe that gives them a great place to daydream. Like, this is a time to make something for yourself.
Yeah.
So we're creating that. That's what my company is doing. What we're doing here on the show is to make sure that we give people something. You're tuning in. I want you to walk away with something that actually makes you go, that was a good show.
Yeah, you get some value out of it. And again, as you can tell, it's our first episode back. So the new idea of Waking the People, it's going to take us some time to really mold and make it pretty. But those are some of the big things that we want. We want you guys to interact with the show. So send us the email again. Send us emails. We will. And the good thing is, if you send us an email quicker, our plan is really to do probably one show a week. So that'll give us more time to research and really help you fix your problems and do some more research on whatever business or investment opportunity or thoughts you have. We can really put some good time into it. So,
it would also be fun when we see these things that have people out there for federal, like picketing and
yeah.
They're showing their. What matters to you, and create scenarios that people can better understand mental exercises on. Because I'm like, look, I really don't have a dog in a fight when it's between Republican and Democrat. Obviously I side more with the Republicans right now, but not by a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm an independent, and that's the case. So all right, so we'll create some interesting content as this moves forward, and it'll take its own form as that comes along too. So the one thing I do want to add, though, before we finish up is in closing. So Josh is actually the one that brought the show back. He messages me out of the blue on one of our social media.
It was late. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I'd really like to bring the show back. And I'm like, the way it hit me was, at first I'm like, oh man, do I have time for that? And then I'm like, he wants to bring the band back together.
Yeah.
It just hit me like, the band's coming back together. We're coming out of retirement.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're coming. And we will do a little bit. We didn't want to do it today. We will do a little bit of a feedback as far as, because there's a lot of things different in both of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Chad especially, we'll touch on that at some point. A lot of we're different people. We have different responsibilities now. So we will do a little bit as one of the reasons why, personally, I wanted to bring it back. I knew that, not definitely major media, but even there's a lot of different people in this content creation that they give good opinions, they give bad opinions, etc. But we need to do our part. We need to, when you're on your deathbed, this is a good thing to think about, a good closing statement for myself. When you're on your deathbed and you look back on your life, are you going to look back on it and say, I paid my bills and I did what was necessary, I made by. Or are you going to look back and say, you know what, I tried to make a major difference. I tried, no matter how minute, no matter how small it may be, I tried to make a difference and I impacted other people around me. That was the main idea of Waking the People when we first started it. And I felt that it was a good time in both of our lives. And no matter our limited time constraints, we could put forth that effort, and we'll both look back on this and say, we're glad we did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really are out to make a difference for people. And for ourselves too. Let's not take ourselves out of the equation. Let's make this world a little bit better.
Yeah.
That we've been here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've come back out of retirement.
Yeah, we're back. We are back. Better than ever too. So I hope you enjoyed it. Again, smash that like button on Rumble. We're probably going to be more on Rumble. We might do a little bit of YouTube. We'll see how that goes as far as what platforms we're going to push. But hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think about the show, leave a like, send us your email questions, and just hang on, because we're coming back and it's going to get better and better. So
no, we have a ridiculous amount of opportunities out of us. We want to make sure that you understand how to seize on those, and share your victories. If you have contribution to bring to this, insights, for me, ask some questions or bring some suggestions. The other is, if you've had those kind of quotes, I'm not going to call the companies out directly, but I will definitely talk about real quotes. I want to be able to see them. Mm-hmm. What did they send you? I just want to know that it's legitimate, so that I can speak about it and not just create a bunch of hysteria.
Yeah,
we've all experienced it, but a lot of times you don't know absolute best in absolute worst quotes. You don't know that. So when they send out a $13,000 homeowner insurance policy, if you don't shop around and you can figure out how to make that work and you're too busy, you may cost yourself $10,000 more a year than what you really need to.
Yep.
So if you don't know, you don't know. And I
Mhm.
would rather you get the benefit from this show of saying, oh, wow, I didn't realize that I could do that. Now, I will give the good company a call out, like a shout out for them. Like with One Source Insurance that's in Clearwater, Largo, that company, they're affiliated with me now, in a way that like they're like, I will use them and I will use my businesses will use them as our insurance provider because they are fantastic. I'm talking fast turnaround. I mean, like, they're incredibly, courteous, professional representatives. My guy, Alec, awesome guy. Like, that dude has got my business. Especially after that last one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Home, auto, you name it, they do all of it. That's why I call it One Source. It's all
Okay.
insurance under one cat on one roof. Yeah, they got it, man, because they're good. And they mean to do well for the community.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love finding businesses like that. Show it to me. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff we'll bring business owners on that are that type of people as well as we go along. I'll bring people in as guests for that particular segment. Yeah, so I appreciate having you guys back. Thank you for watching the channel so far, the show up to this point. Josh, you have anything else before we close up?
No, just gear up. It's a new year. 2026 is going to be a big year, a lot to talk about. We're going to do our best to cut this. The problem with it, there's so much going on, and the idea of the show, it's going to take some time for us to mold it to what we want, just like anything else. But thank you for watching. Share, tell people about it. If you like it, again, we need some feedback. So give us feedback. We'll see you next time, next Sunday. Not sure when we're going to post the video, but see you soon. Hope you enjoyed it.
I like that, though. Gear up.
Yeah, gear up. It's coming.
Gear up, baby.
It ain't going to be as it was before. It's coming.
So if you've been thinking about business, you've been thinking about starting one, or you've been hesitant, or you've been burnt in the past, yeah, send us some information. So, I mean, send me specifically. I'll have some conversation with you.
Yeah.
Because and we will talk about you on the show. Josh is a huge advocate also. He's got his own small business, but he's a huge advocate for small business. So guys, we're here and we're here to make a difference. So tune in, subscribe, let's get those numbers growing and let's make a difference together. This is our community, and that community is the American community. So if you're a part of that, let's hear from you. Okay. All right. Till next time, Chad Everett Bro Shears.
Joshua T. McClendon.
What's your middle name again?
Todd.
Todd.
Yeah, Todd.
I love it. Yeah. So guys, until next time, man, let's get at it. Let's work together. Let's make this thing really awesome. Okay. All right. Let's get to it. We'll see you. All right. So Waking the People. See how unpolished we are. All right. See you next time.